is arriving at platform 1, 2:31 departure for Bridgnorth. This train will call at Highley, Hampton Road and Bridgnorth. Train just arrived at platform 1.
Severn Valley Railway's reputation as a provider of nostalgia for steam train buffs is well established. But steam is not the only memory it seeks to stir. Throughout the year it holds special weekends recreating experiences like the 1940 Blitz, parades of classic road vehicles, and in this case, a heavy horse weekend.
Look on. George is 12 years old and weighs a ton.
Eric Such is one of the regular providers of animals for this event, which delights grandparents and astonishes grandchildren. Myself, I've always had a soft spot for railway horses and carts, in spite of the fact that one of them caused me to fail my first driving test in 1951. I'm standing by a Shire horse which is huge. I'm about 5'6", so he's going to be 6'2" high. Massive flanks on it. It's a Shire horse. It's not a Clydesdale or...
No, the Scottish horse is called a Clydesdale, and the French horse is called a Percheron.
And a Shire is what, an English horse?
It's an English horse, yes. It was bred for the English counties, and he stands 18 hands high.
Which is how? And a hand is how many inches?
An hand is 4 inches.
Right. Can you do the arithmetic?
And I think it's 6'2".
That was about right then.
I think it's 6'2".
Well, he's magnificent and he likes the microphone. And his name is George.
His name's George. He's 12 years old. I've had him for 7 years. I bought him, he was 5 years old when I bought him, 6 years old. And he'd been broken to walk round, but he hadn't been broken to pull a cart and chain havers for raking all the dead grass out the field. So I spent a month on him, and I trained him every day, morning and afternoon, so as he'd do the job without hurting himself.
How did you know what to do? Because you're a decorator.
Well, my father had horses from when he was 13. He was born on a farm at Ham Green, and that's by the Ginny Ring, just the other side of Bromsgrove.
Now, he's beautifully tricked out, isn't he? He's got lovely, what do you call those, on his mane?
Them are called flights. We plait his mane. Some people use raffia. We use wool, and it's red and yellow. And the flights are made just to give his neck a curve. You sort of pronounce the curve of a horse's neck.
Well, he looked very gay. And the rest of his harness, which I doubt if I could lift, is really to secure him into the shafts, isn't it?
That's right. The collar is for pulling. And there's 2 chains called tug chains. And they fasten onto the front of the shafts, and that's for pulling uphill. Then you've got the saddle. The saddle is to carry the back chain, and that holds the shafts from one side to the other.
Steadies them,
Yeah.
stops them twisting.
And it stops, it takes all the weight, the saddle does. There's no weight on the horse's back at all, because it's usually got a 2.5 to 3 inch pad of horsehair in between him and anything that's going to touch him.
And moving on towards the
Moving
rear.
on down, you come to the breeching. Now the breeching...
That's the bit which goes round the back leg.
The breeching is a brake of the horse. When you're going downhill, the breeching tightens up round his iron quarters. And these are called the back chain. And as you go downhill, it stops the cart from touching his legs.
He's a beautiful dark colour on top, a chestnut colour on top,
He's a
and
dark
white
bay,
legs.
dark bay with 4 white legs.
That must be fairly expensive to keep.
Altogether, over 12 months, it cost me about £1,600.
And what does he eat in a day?
He eats usually a bale of hay, half in the morning and half at night.
For roughage?
For roughage, that's like shredded wheat for us. He has a 2-gallon bucket full of bran, barley, like cornflakes, peas, chaff, and I mix it all up together and tip some water in it so it's not too dry. And he has that every morning at 7 o'clock and every night at 7 o'clock. And that keeps his system in good order.
So he doesn't do badly, does he? How much water does he drink a day?
He usually drinks between 4 and 5 gallons of water a day.
The scale of a horse of this size, it really is amazing. It looks prehistoric to me, because everything nowadays is miniaturised, and you can put it in your pocket.
That's right, yes, but an animal like this, he was built for strength, and he was built for bone, because when my father used them before the war, all they done was delivered everything by horse and cart, either a 2-wheeler or a 4-wheeler. If you have a 2-wheeler, you can carry a ton. If you have a 4-wheeler, you can carry 3 ton. Walk on. Lad. When my father used to use them horse and cart, they made the shoes with a bar at the front, so as it just fitted the grooves in these cobbles, and if you was going up the hill, it used to hang on the cobble, and the horse didn't slip so much.
I suppose once a horse fell down, it was difficult to get one up.
Well, it is difficult to get one up, yes, if he falls down, but it's very rare. And they only used to do that if they got heavy load on the back and they was pulling too hard. And this is why. Come on. This is why at the bottom of the hill, when I was a kid, all the bottom of the hill had a chain horse. And all he had was a collar and 2 long chains, and they used to hook that horse onto the shafts. And 2 horses pulled up the hill. When he got to the top of the hill, they unhooked him. Your horse carried on, and the other horse went back down the hill to pull somebody else up. And they used to charge 6pence for that.
Like the trains on the Licky Bank?
That's right, that's exactly the same. You've got to have extra power to get up an incline. And then once he got on the flat, he could carry on his journey.
So if you're going up Mucklow Hill, you'd certainly need a horse.
Oh God, I should think so, yes. Sometimes they had 2 chain horses, if it was a long drag, you know what I mean? If it went on for more than like 2 mile, they'd have 2 chain horses, so that was 3 horses pulling the load up the hill. Good lad. Good lad, walk on.
How do you manage for blacksmithing and things and shoes?
Well, in these day and age it's very difficult because there's no blacksmith shops about. So you have to phone up the blacksmith and he comes to your house and he does it in like a little oven, a gas oven. It's about 2 foot square, and he lights the oven up and puts the shoes in there, gets them out, knocks them into the shape of the horse's foot and then fits them.
How often do you have to do that?
That's done every 8 to 10 weeks.
And what did it cost to buy him?
George cost me £1,500 because he wasn't broken. But now he's trained like he is now, I can take him anywhere. We've drove through the middle of Birmingham, past the Midland Red buses and taxis, and he's safe. I should say he's worth about between £3,500 and £4,000. And the harness costs roughly £2,000 to buy a set of harness to fit him. Good lad. Good lad, walk on. These cobbles are a bit slippery. They was always the same when I was a lad. My dad always said you had to watch where you drove your horse. You got to look where you're going. Walk on, George. Oh.
And what sort of a temperament has he got? What does he like doing and what does he not like doing?
Well, George likes to be around people and children. He loves working. If I put the harness on him and it's got bells on, he seems to have a spring in his step. He seems to want to work. And if I fetch his collar out, he'll put his head down so I can just lift the collar up and slip it over his head and onto his neck. He doesn't shy away. If you hurt horse, he won't want to do your job. But if you train him quietly and slowly and talk to him, you have to talk to him. If you say come back to him, he goes left. If you say G back, he goes right. If you say woo, he stops. And if you say walk on, he'll walk on and start moving.
What doesn't he like doing? What upsets him?
I don't know really. I've took him past most everything. We've had him by a steam engine, a road roller, a JCB. He doesn't like sheep because when sheep are walking up the road towards him, up the lane where we live, it looks like a shivering water, and it looks if it's like 2 foot deep of water. So he eases up a bit then.
Now you're part of a club. What's this horse club to which you belong?
I joined a club and it's called the Cotswold Carthorse Society, and it's about 150 people, and most of us have got 1 or 2 horses, some have got more, but if there's an event on like the Severn Valley Railway like today, the organisers will phone you up and say, are you free for Saturday and Sunday or Saturday or whatever. And if you're able to help, you bring your own horse and cart in your vehicle from wherever you live, and we all meet up together, and usually there's 25 or 50 horses working all along the railway at different stations.
So today it's the Severn Valley Railway, tomorrow it could be the Three Counties show.
It could be the Three Counties show, it could be a fete for the school, it could be a wedding, we do weddings, we do funerals. It could be any sort of job. A friend of mine was asked not so long ago to transport a clock that had been taken down from this village over 50 years ago, and it was restored just recently, and they wanted it delivered like it was on horse and cart when it was first made, so he delivered it with horse and cart.
What's the most exciting thing you've done?
I think the most exciting thing I've ever done was when we had the Cannon Hill Horse Parade in Birmingham. And my father used to do that every year during the war and before the war. And when they asked us to do it, it was just an emotional day of joy to be able to do something that my father had done like 60, 80 years ago. It's just a marvellous feeling to think that these animals are still working today and they can do exactly the same type of job cheaper than an articulated lorry that delivers all the stuff to the shops and it pollutes the atmosphere. There's no pollution with horse and cart. It's just a marvellous sound when you're driving along.
Do you think they'll come back?
I should like to think so. They are in the forestry. Instead of using tractors to pull trees out of the woods, they're using horses because horses don't mark the ground so much. And it grows, all the young shoots grow up quicker when the horse has gone away, rather than chopping it all up with tractor tyres and all the diesel that's dropping on the floor from the engine.